Have you ever wondered why Judaism places such importance on wine? When a child's born and he has a brit milah, we use wine. When a couple come together in marriage, we use wine under the chuppah. And on Shabbat, festivals, many special occasions, we sanctify the day with a cup of wine. What's so unique about the wine? But not only that, wine is the only liquid that has a special unique blessing. Bore peri hagefen. All other liquids, all other juices share the same blessing. Shehakol niya bidvaro. What makes wine so unique? And it's definitely not the alcohol, because wheat makes whiskey, apples make calvados, figs makes bucha, and so on and so forth. They're all alcoholic drinks, and they still have the blessing of Shehakol. Perhaps the answer can be found in this week's Parashat Shelach. It's one of the most famous stories in the entire Torah, where the spies were sent to scout the land, and they came back with a negative report and were punished that the entire Jewish people should not enter the land of Israel for 40 years. Not only is this story famous, but also the interpretation of Kabbalah and Chassidut is also now quite famous, where Chassidut explains that the spies didn't have really bad intentions, they actually meant good, because they preferred to stay in the desert where they were living in a cocoon. They had everything they needed. They had the man from heaven, they had the water from the Miriam's well, they had the clouds that protected them. So why want to go into the land where they have distractions? Surely it's better to stay in the desert with all your needs taken care of, and one can focus on Torah and mitzvot. This is a beautiful Hasidic interpretation. But the question is, where does it come from? What's the basis of it in the Torah? All nice explaining that the spies have good intentions, but who says? And perhaps the answer is in a verse that seems very redundant in the entire episode of the story of the spies. Because after the Torah tells us what Moshe told the spies to look out for, and to see if the cities were fortified, and to see if they were strong or weak, and so on and so forth, the Torah concludes, V'hayamim yemei bikurei anavim. Those were the days when the grapes ripened. What's that got to do with anything? Why would the Torah share that information? So here's a little lesson in botany. You see, grapes all start off green. At a certain point in the beginning of the summer, they start turning red. But what causes that change? So what happens is fascinating. The grapes receive their growth, their energy from the sun outside, from the elements, from the warmth, from the rain, and so on and so forth, and that's what keeps them green. But at a certain point, they turn inwards, and they start taking nutrition from their own roots, which sucks it from the ground, and that brings it and turns it into red. And this is what it means when the Torah tells us that the grapes were ripening, was that they stopped receiving everything that makes them grow from outside, from the sun mainly, and rather they turned inwards. They were ripening because they were now finding the wherewithal and the resources from within themselves. What the Torah is actually teaching us is exactly the point that we mentioned before. And this is what the spies missed. When the Torah tells us it was the time when the grapes were ripening, it was to teach us that the spies should have paid attention to the grapes. They should have said to themselves, look, here the grapes learn at a certain point, it's enough receiving from outside, you now need to find the energy and the resource from within. The spies didn't heed to this message. They wanted to continue benefiting only from the outside, receiving the man, receiving the water, everything from Hashem, and not trying to use their own talents, their own abilities to cultivate the land and make a change through their contribution. And this, therefore, is the message of this week's parasha. It's important to receive at the beginning in your youth help from above, help from your parents, help from your teachers. But at a certain point, there has to be a switch, there has to be a change. Now it's time to shine outwards, to take what you have and share it with the world. Enough taking, start giving. Now we can understand all about the wine. Grapes teach us enough to take, it's time to give. That's what makes it so special. When a baby's born, we make a brit milah, we remind the baby, one day will come a time when you need to start giving. When a couple come together under marriage, we use wine to remind ourselves. Everyone gets things from outside, they get blessings and gifts. But you need to take all of that and through marriage perhaps come together with joint efforts and share with the world. Create more family, create people, create a home for others to come and benefit. That is why wine has its own blessing. Because if something realizes that he not only takes but he also gives, that is deserving of a blessing. Wishing you Shabbat Shalom and L'chaim.